What if the world you know could vanish in a heartbeat? What if a place built to defy the darkness became the stage for one of history's most chilling unsolved disappearances? Tonight, we journey to the windswept cliffs of the Flannan Isles, a remote outpost where 3 experienced lighthouse keepers vanished without a trace, leaving behind only silence, a meal left unfinished, and a clock forever frozen at 2. No bodies, no struggle, just an oppressive fog of unanswered questions and a legend that refuses to die. Some say it was the sea, others whisper of madness, ancient curses, or something far more sinister lurking in the mist. But the truth is far stranger and far more terrifying than any story told in hushed tones. Stay with us, because what you're about to discover will haunt you long after the screen goes dark. Before we unlock the secrets hidden within these haunted rocks, a quick but crucial request. Did you know that most people who watch our videos aren't subscribed to the channel? If you crave the darkest mysteries and want to be the first to uncover the world's most disturbing true stories, hit subscribe now. Don't miss out on the revelations that will challenge everything you thought you knew about reality. Ready to confront the unknown? Let's begin. But be warned, some secrets are never meant to be uncovered, and tonight you'll see why. In December 1900, the remote Flannan Isles off the northwest coast of Scotland became the stage for one of the most chilling maritime mysteries in history. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse, perched atop the windswept cliffs of Eilean Mor, was manned by 3 experienced keepers: James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur. These men were no strangers to isolation or harsh weather. Their days were ruled by routine, tending the powerful beacon, maintaining equipment, and keeping meticulous logs. Yet despite their discipline and experience, all 3 vanished without a trace, leaving behind a scene that would haunt investigators and storytellers for generations. The first sign that something was wrong came on December 15th, when the crew of the transatlantic steamer Archtor noticed the lighthouse's guiding beam was dark, even as rough weather battered the region. This anomaly was reported, but due to the remote location and severe storms, it wasn't until December 26th that the supply ship Hesperus finally arrived at the island. The crew expected a routine handover, but instead found the island eerily silent. There was no flag raised, no welcoming party, and the lighthouse itself was dark and lifeless, a stark contrast to the disciplined order expected from its keepers. When Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, finally set foot on Eilean Mor, he was immediately struck by a sense of dread as he climbed the steep path to the lighthouse. The island was silent except for the wind and the distant crash of waves against the rocks. Approaching the lighthouse, Moore found the gate locked and noticed that 2 of the 3 oilskin coats were missing from their usual hooks in the entryway. Inside, the scene was even more disturbing. The kitchen table was set with plates containing the remains of a meal: meat, potatoes, and pickles. One chair was overturned, as if someone had risen abruptly. The clock on the wall had stopped at 2 o'clock, and everything else in the lighthouse was clean and orderly, with no sign of violence or forced entry. The logbook's last entry was dated December 15th, mentioning severe storms but nothing that hinted at imminent danger. A thorough search of the island and the surrounding waters yielded nothing. There were no bodies, no footprints, and no evidence of a struggle. Just the constant roar of the sea and the thick fog that clung to the cliffs. The authorities were notified, and a formal investigation began almost immediately. Local fishermen familiar with the currents found it especially strange that no bodies had washed ashore, as was typical in drowning cases. The official inquiry, led by Superintendent Robert Muirhead, carefully examined every detail: the weather, the condition of the lighthouse, and the keeper's routines. The final report suggested that the men had likely been swept away by a violent wave while trying to secure equipment outside. Yet, this explanation left many questions unanswered, especially given the strict rule that one keeper should always remain inside. As days turned into weeks, the mystery surrounding the disappearance of the Flannan Isles Lighthouse keepers only deepened. The official report, led by Superintendent Robert Muirhead, concluded that the men had likely been swept away by a rogue wave while attempting to secure equipment outside. Yet, this explanation left many unconvinced. The rules were clear. At least one keeper was always supposed to remain inside, and the missing oilskins suggested only 2 men had gone out. Why would all 3 risk leaving the safety of the lighthouse at once, especially in such treacherous weather? The absence of any bodies or signs of a struggle only fueled speculation. Local fishermen and islanders, well acquainted with the unpredictable moods of the sea, began to whisper their own theories. Some believed the men had fallen victim to a sudden violent quarrel, perhaps driven by the psychological strain of isolation. Others pointed to the region's long history of superstition and folklore, suggesting that something beyond human understanding had claimed the keepers. Over time, stories of ghostly voices, unexplained lights, and strange shadows moving through the mist became part of the island's legend. The Flannan Isles, once just a remote outpost, now loomed large in the imagination of anyone who heard the story. A place where the line between reality and nightmare seemed to blur. The isolation of the Flannan Isles was absolute, surrounded by violent seas and shrouded in near-constant mist. Eilean Mor was a place where time seemed to move differently. The lighthouse keepers lived by strict routines, dictated by the relentless demands of the beacon and the unpredictable weather. Their days blurred together, tending the light every 30 seconds, keeping logs, and performing endless maintenance. Even small comforts, like tending a vegetable patch or playing cards, did little to break the monotony. For men like James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, discipline was a shield against the psychological toll of such solitude. Yet it was this very discipline that made their disappearance so hard to accept. The rules were clear. One man must always remain inside the lighthouse, no matter the circumstances. Despite these protocols, all 3 men vanished. The official inquiry, led by Superintendent Robert Muirhead, meticulously examined every detail: the weather records, the last log entries, and the state of the keepers' quarters. The most widely accepted theory suggested that a massive wave, known to reach up to 29 meters in the region, had swept the men away while they were trying to secure equipment outside. But this explanation never fully satisfied those who knew the keepers' training and the island's routines. Why would all 3 men have left at once, breaking protocol? Why was one oilskin left behind? And if it was a wave, why were no bodies ever recovered, given the local currents that usually return drowned sailors to shore? As the weeks passed, the absence of answers began to weigh heavily on everyone involved. Joseph Moore, the relief keeper who first entered the lighthouse, confessed years later that he never truly recovered from what he saw on Eilean Mor. He described a constant sense of being watched, even when he knew he was alone. The silence in the lighthouse was oppressive, broken only by the wind howling through the cracks and the relentless crash of waves below. Moore's account, combined with the disturbing scene he found, a meal abandoned, a chair knocked over, and the clock frozen in time, became the foundation for countless rumors and ghost stories that would haunt the region for generations. The official explanation, that the men were swept away by a giant wave, never satisfied the local community or the families of the keepers. Fishermen who knew the currents insisted that, had the men drowned, the sea would have eventually returned their bodies to the rocky shore. The strict rules of lighthouse protocol: one man always inside, never all 3. Outside at once, were drilled into every keeper, making the simultaneous disappearance even more baffling. Over time, the story took on a life of its own. Some whispered about ancient curses, others about supernatural forces tied to the island's long history of superstition. The Flannan Isles, once a lonely outpost, became a symbol of the unknown. a place where reality seemed to dissolve into legend. As years passed, the story of the vanished keepers became inseparable from the identity of the Flannan Isles themselves. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the island, warning fishermen and travelers to keep their distance. Some claimed that on foggy nights you could still see faint lights flickering on Eilean Mor, or hear voices carried by the wind, whispers that sounded eerily like the names of the missing men. The lighthouse, once a symbol of safety, now stood as a monument to the unknown, its beam cutting through the mist like a reminder that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. The absence of closure left a mark on everyone connected to the case. Families of the lost keepers never received answers, only the echo of unanswered questions and the cold comfort of official reports. Over time, the Flannan Isles became a magnet for storytellers, investigators, and those drawn to the unexplained. Theories multiplied: giant waves, madness, supernatural intervention, or even secret criminal activity. But none could account for every detail found in that silent, abandoned lighthouse. The island's isolation, the abrupt interruption of daily life, and the chilling normalcy of the scene left behind combined to create a mystery that refused to fade, lingering in the minds of all who heard it. Over time, the Flannan Isles mystery became more than just a cold case. It became a living legend, woven into the fabric of Scottish folklore. The lighthouse, once a symbol of safety, was now infamous for the unanswered questions it raised. Local fishermen avoided the waters around Eilean Mor, sharing stories of strange lights and voices that seemed to echo across the waves on stormy nights. Some claimed to have seen ghostly figures on the cliffs, or heard the names of the missing keepers whispered in the wind. The island's reputation grew darker with each retelling, and even seasoned sailors felt a chill when passing too close to its rocky shores. The disappearance also left a mark on lighthouse operations throughout Scotland and beyond. The Northern Lighthouse Board, shaken by the event and its international attention, reviewed safety protocols and eventually accelerated the push toward automation. By 1971, the Flannan Isles Lighthouse was fully automated, ending the era of human keepers on that lonely outpost. Yet even as technology advanced and the world moved on, the story of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur refused to fade. Their fate remained a reminder of the limits of human understanding and the enduring power of the unknown, to haunt those who seek certainty in a world that rarely provides it. As the decades passed, the enigma of the Flannan Isles only deepened, refusing to yield to time or rational explanation. The story inspired poems, songs, and even films, each new retelling adding another layer to the legend. The poem Flannan Isle by Wilfred Wilson Gibson captured the haunting atmosphere of the abandoned lighthouse, while local storytellers kept the memory alive with tales of ghostly voices and mysterious lights seen by passing sailors. The disappearance became a fixture in Scottish folklore, a cautionary tale about the dangers of isolation and the unpredictable power of nature. Even those who didn't believe in curses or supernatural forces found themselves unsettled by the facts. 3 experienced men, gone without a trace, leaving behind only silence and unanswered questions. The mystery also changed the way lighthouses were managed across Scotland and beyond. The Northern Lighthouse Board, shaken by the international attention and the unsettling lack of closure, began to accelerate plans for automation. By 1971, the Flannan Isles Lighthouse was fully automated, ending the era of human keepers on that remote outpost. Yet, even as technology advanced and the world moved on, the legend of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur refused to fade. Their story remains a chilling reminder of the limits of human understanding and a testament to the enduring power of the unknown, to haunt those who seek comfort in certainty. Even after the lighthouse was automated in 1971, the legend of the Flannan Isles only grew stronger. The absence of human keepers did nothing to quiet the stories. If anything, it made the silence around Eilean Mor feel even heavier. Supply crews who visited for maintenance reported strange occurrences, tools misplaced, lights flickering for no reason, and the unsettling sensation of being watched from the cliffs above. Some claimed to hear faint voices carried on the wind, or to glimpse shadowy figures moving through the mist, always just out of sight. These reports, dismissed by skeptics as tricks of the mind, only added to the island's reputation as a place where reality and legend blur. Over time, the Flannan Isles became a symbol of the unknown, a place where logic falters and the imagination runs wild. The story of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur continued to inspire poems, books, and films, each new version adding another layer to the myth. For the families of the lost keepers, the lack of closure was a wound that never fully healed. For everyone else, the mystery remained a chilling reminder of how easily people can vanish, even in a world ruled by routine and reason. The lighthouse still stands, its automated beam sweeping the horizon, a silent witness to a secret the island refuses to give up. For more than a century, the Flannan Isles have stood as a silent witness to a mystery that refuses to be solved. The disappearance of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur has become more than just a historical enigma. It's a story that echoes through generations. The details remain as unsettling now as they were in 1900. The table set for a meal that would never be eaten, the clock stopped at 2, the coats left behind, and the utter lack of evidence. Each new theory, whether rogue waves, madness, violence, or the supernatural, fails to account for every detail, leaving the case suspended in a fog of uncertainty. The island's isolation, the severity of the weather, and the psychological pressure of life as a lighthouse keeper all contributed to the legend, but none can explain how 3 experienced men simply vanished without a trace. As technology advanced and lighthouses across Scotland became automated, the era of human keepers faded into history. Yet, the story of the Flannan Isles remains, woven into the fabric of Scottish folklore and inspiring countless books, poems, and films. The lighthouse still stands, its automated beam cutting through the mist, a monument to the unknown. For those who pass near Eilean Mor, the legend lingers, a chilling reminder that some secrets are never meant to be uncovered, and that the sea, with all its beauty and terror, still keeps its darkest stories well hidden. For the families of the missing keepers, the lack of closure became a wound that never truly healed. Letters were sent, inquiries made, but the answers were always the same. No trace, no explanation, nothing left but the silence of the sea and the cold logic of official reports. Some relatives clung to the hope that somehow the men had survived and would one day return. Others grew resentful of the authorities, convinced that something had been overlooked or covered up. The emotional toll was immense, and the story of the Flannan Isles became a cautionary tale whispered among lighthouse families for generations. A reminder of how quickly routine can dissolve into tragedy. Even as decades passed and the lighthouse was eventually automated, the legend refused to die. Maintenance crews who visited the island reported strange occurrences, tools vanishing, lights flickering, and the constant sense of being watched. Some claimed to hear names whispered on the wind or saw fleeting shadows in the fog, always just out of reach. These stories, whether rooted in reality or imagination, only deepened the sense of unease that clung to Eilean Mor. The Flannan Isles, once just a remote outpost, had become a symbol of the unknown, a place where even the most disciplined routines could not protect against the mysteries lurking just beyond the edge of understanding. With each passing year, the Flannan Isles mystery became a story lighthouse keepers would whisper to one another during long, isolated nights. It was no longer just a tale of 3 men lost to the sea. It was a warning about the unpredictable forces that could unravel even the most disciplined routines. New keepers assigned to remote posts would find themselves thinking of Duckett, Marshall, and MacArthur, wondering if the same fate could befall them. The legend seeped into the culture of those who worked the lights, shaping their rituals and superstitions. Some refused to speak the names of the missing men aloud, while others left small offerings in the lighthouse kitchens, hoping to appease whatever restless spirits might linger. For those who visited Eilean Mor after automation, the island's silence felt heavier than ever. The lighthouse, now operated by machines, stood as a monument to both human ingenuity and human vulnerability. Maintenance crews reported strange phenomena, tools vanishing, footsteps echoing in empty corridors, and the feeling of being watched from the shadows. Even skeptics found themselves unsettled by the island's atmosphere, the way the fog seemed to swallow sound, and the sea battered the rocks with relentless force. The Flannan Isles had become more than a geographic location. They were a symbol of the limits of human understanding, a place where the line between reality and legend was forever blurred. The Flannan Isles mystery became a shadow that stretched far beyond the cold stone walls of the lighthouse. For new lighthouse keepers across Scotland, the story was a constant reminder of how quickly routine could dissolve into chaos. Some approached their posts with a heightened sense of caution, double-checking locks and keeping meticulous logs, as if order alone could ward off whatever had claimed Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur. Others developed their own rituals, silent prayers before each shift, offerings left in the kitchen, or a refusal to speak the missing men's names aloud. The legend became a living presence, shaping the daily lives of those who worked in isolation, surrounded by the relentless sea and the ever-present wind. Even as technology advanced and automation replaced human keepers, the sense of unease never fully faded from Eilean Mor. Maintenance crews reported odd occurrences, tools inexplicably moved, footsteps echoing in empty corridors, and the persistent feeling of being watched. The lighthouse, now operated by machines, stood as a monument to both human ingenuity and human vulnerability. The story of the vanished keepers continued to circulate, a chilling reminder that some mysteries defy logic and that sometimes the most unsettling answers are the ones we can never truly know. For those who dared to visit Eilean Mor in the years after the disappearance, the island seemed to hold its breath. Maintenance crews, arriving only when absolutely necessary, described a heaviness in the air and a sense that the place was reluctant to reveal its secrets. Some reported finding tools moved from where they had been left, or hearing the distant sound of footsteps echoing through the empty corridors of the lighthouse. Even the most skeptical workers admitted to feeling watched, especially at dusk when the fog rolled in and the sea seemed to press closer against the rocks. The lighthouse, once a beacon of safety, had become a monument to the unknown, a silent reminder that some questions are never answered. The mystery of the Flannan Isles seeped into the collective memory of Scotland and beyond, inspiring countless retellings, theories, and creative works. Poets and musicians found in the story a wellspring of haunting imagery, while filmmakers and writers returned, again and again, to the chilling details. The meal left uneaten, the clock stopped at 2, the coats abandoned on their hooks. Each new generation found its own meaning in the legend, whether as a cautionary tale about the dangers of isolation, a meditation on the limits of human understanding, or a simple, enduring ghost story. The island's silence, broken only by the wind and the waves, became its own kind of answer, a reminder that sometimes the most unsettling mysteries are those that remain unsolved. As the 20th century moved on, the Flannan Isles mystery did not fade. It grew. Each new retelling added fresh details, some rooted in fact, others in speculation or superstition. The story became a fixture in Scottish folklore, a ghostly warning whispered among sailors and lighthouse keepers. Even as technology advanced and lighthouses were automated, the legend of the 3 vanished men remained a touchstone for those drawn to the unknown. The lighthouse on Eilean Mor, now operated by machines, stood as a stark monument to the limits of human understanding. Visitors and maintenance crews continued to report odd occurrences, misplaced tools, fleeting shadows, and the persistent sense of being watched, especially when the fog rolled in and the sea battered the rocks below. For the families of Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur, the lack of closure was a wound that never healed. Letters and inquiries brought only official statements and cold logic, but no answers. Some relatives clung to hope, imagining the men had survived somehow, while others grew resentful, convinced that something crucial had been overlooked or deliberately hidden. The emotional toll was heavy, and the Flannan Isles became a symbol of the unknown. A place where even the most disciplined routines could not protect against the mysteries lurking just beyond the edge of understanding. The island's silence, broken only by the wind and the waves, became its own kind of answer, a reminder that some secrets are destined to remain unsolved. As the years turned into decades, the story of the vanished keepers became a permanent fixture in the folklore, not just of Scotland, but of anyone drawn to the mysteries of the sea. Writers, artists, and filmmakers returned again and again to the details. The meal left uneaten, the clock stopped at 2, the overturned chair, and the coats left behind. Each retelling added new layers of speculation, some rooted in fact, others in superstition or pure invention. The Flannan Isles, once just a remote outpost battered by storms, became a symbol of all that is unknowable and unsettling about the world. Even those who dismissed supernatural explanations found themselves haunted by the sheer absence of answers, by the way the island seemed to swallow all evidence and leave only silence behind. Today, the lighthouse on Eilean Mor stands automated, its lights sweeping over empty waves, a monument to both human ingenuity and human vulnerability. Maintenance crews still report a heaviness in the air, a sense of being watched, and the occasional unexplained sound echoing through the empty corridors. For the families of Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur, the wound of not knowing never fully healed. For everyone else, the story remains a chilling reminder that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved, and that the world still holds places where reality and legend blur. The Flannan Isles, with their wind-swept cliffs and endless fog, continue to guard their secret, inviting each new generation to wonder what really happened on that cold December night so long ago. The Flannan Isles mystery endures, not just as a story of 3 men lost to the sea, but as a symbol of the limits of human understanding. More than a century after the disappearance, the facts remain as unsettling as ever. A meal left uneaten, a clock stopped at 2, coats abandoned, and no sign of struggle or escape. The official theory of a giant wave sweeping the keepers away never fully satisfied those who knew the men or understood the strict routines of lighthouse life. The absence of bodies, the abrupt interruption of daily routine, and the eerie normalcy of the scene left behind have continued to fuel speculation and folklore. Today, the lighthouse on Eilean Mor stands automated, its beam cutting through the fog as it has for generations. The island remains isolated, battered by storms and shrouded in mist, its silence broken only by the wind and the crash of waves. For the families of Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur, the lack of closure became a wound that never healed. For everyone else, the story is a chilling reminder that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved. The Flannan Isles, with their windswept cliffs and endless fog, still guard their secret, a secret that continues to haunt the imagination of all who hear it, a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. The Flannan Isles mystery endures because it resists every attempt at closure. Over a century has passed since Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur vanished, yet the details remain as chilling as ever. The meal left uneaten, the clock stopped at 2, the coats abandoned, and the absence of any struggle or escape. The official theory of a giant wave never fully satisfied those who knew the men or understood the strict routines of lighthouse life. The lack of bodies, The abrupt interruption of daily routine and the eerie normalcy of the scene left behind have continued to fuel speculation, folklore, and creative retellings across generations. Today, Eilean Mor's lighthouse stands automated, its beam cutting through the fog as it has for generations. The island remains battered by storms and shrouded in mist, its silence broken only by the wind and the crash of waves. For the families of the missing keepers, the lack of closure became a wound that never healed. For everyone else, the story is a chilling reminder that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved. The Flannan Isles, with their windswept cliffs and endless fog, still guard their secret. A secret that continues to haunt the imagination of all who hear it, a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. Even now, more than a century later, the Flannan Isles remain a place of speculation and whispered stories. The lighthouse stands automated, its light sweeping the horizon as it always has, but no human hands tend its machinery or keep watch through the endless nights. Visitors, rare and usually there for maintenance, still report a heaviness in the air, a sense that the island is holding its breath. Some claim to hear faint voices carried by the wind, or to glimpse shadows moving just beyond the reach of the beam. For many, these sensations are nothing more than tricks of the mind, the product of isolation and the island's wild atmosphere. But for others, they are evidence that whatever happened in December 1900 left a mark that time cannot erase. The story of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur has become more than a maritime mystery. It is a legend that continues to haunt the imagination of all who hear it. The unanswered questions, the meal left uneaten, the clock stopped, the coats abandoned, the total absence of struggle or evidence, have turned the Flannan Isles into a symbol of the unknowable. Each new theory, whether rational or supernatural, only deepens the sense of unease. The island's silence, broken only by the wind and the waves, stands as a reminder that some secrets are never meant to be uncovered, and that the world still holds places where reality and legend blur together, leaving us to wonder what truly happened on those rocks so many years ago. The Flannan Isles, battered by wind and sea, remain unchanged. A cluster of rocks rising from the North Atlantic, their lighthouse still sending its beam into the darkness every 30 seconds. More than a century has passed since the disappearance of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, yet the sense of unease lingers. The facts are as stark as ever. A meal left unfinished, a clock stopped at 2, coats abandoned, no sign of struggle or escape. The official explanation, a rogue wave, never fully satisfied those who knew the keepers or understood the strict routines of lighthouse life. The island's silence, broken only by the wind and the waves, has become its own kind of answer, a reminder that some secrets are destined to remain unsolved. For those who visit Eilean Mor today, the sense of mystery is almost tangible. The lighthouse, now automated, stands as a monument to both human ingenuity and vulnerability. The story of the vanished keepers endures, whispered among sailors, retold in poems and films, and lingering in the minds of all who hear it. The Flannan Isles have become a symbol of the unknown, a place where reality and legend blur, and where the sea, with all its power and indifference, still keeps its darkest stories locked away. In the end, perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Flannan Isles mystery is not what we know, but what we never will. The Flannan Isles still keep their secret, shrouded in fog and silence, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. After hearing all the evidence, what do you believe truly happened to the lighthouse keepers? Was it nature, madness, or something even darker that claimed them? Share your theory or your own experience with the Unexplained in the comments below. I want to know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story that will shake your view of reality. Your subscription is the only way to make sure you don't get left in the dark when new mysteries are revealed. And if you're ready for more, click on the next video now. It's another real-life enigma that will leave you questioning everything. Thanks for watching. I'm Jack.